Welcome, everyone, to the Jam Yearbook. I'm Matt.
And I'm Jim. We're here to take you on a journey through the years as we explore the music in our lifetime and the impact it's had on us and the world we live in.
Welcome to version 1984.
Ooh.
Jim, how you doing this week?
Well,
Let's hear it.
I always feel like somebody's watching me.
I need a little privacy. So are you talking about Orwell or Rockwell?
Well, these days, probably a little bit of both.
Yeah. So before we get into the actual music, we need to acknowledge a significant loss.
Yeah, we do.
The world lost one of its smoothest, most beautiful voices when Marvin Gaye died from gunshot wounds on April 1st, 1984. Marvin Gaye was experiencing a career rejuvenation in the early 80s with his hit Sexual Healing. He was shot in the chest and shoulder by his father after Marvin Jr. intervened in an argument between his parents. By all accounts, his relationship with his father was always tumultuous. Marvin had moved in with his parents following the last tour, and he was having problems with depression and addiction. It's sad that someone who brought so much joy into others' lives had so many demons in the last years of his own.
Yeah, this is really sad how the world lost Marvin Gaye. I remember hearing the news story on the radio when it happened. It wasn't until I was older and realized the impact he'd had on the music world. And I'm glad I took the time to dig back into his music and appreciate it. He was a massive influence on what you and I even listen to today.
I remember being really confused by this news article. His dad shot him?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, it's really crazy. Yeah. All right, Matt, are you ready? This is a big year, 1984. It's a lot of fun to go back to, but there's no way at all, I don't think you or I were going to be able to pick 5 songs from 1984. I think we learned a few things from splitting 1991 into 2 episodes, so we came to an agreement that we were going to change the rules a little bit this week.
Yeah, sorry, we won't be doing 1984 part 2, the Electric Boogaloo. It's good. It's going to be hard not to mention certain bands hanging around from prior years. 1984 is going to be big enough, but 1983 and 84, they're really intertwined musically. It's very hard sometimes to put up those hard walls and not mention certain things. But truth be told, it's really all those early 80s years, 80 through 84. This is the time when I'm realizing that I prefer listening to whole albums instead of singles. You know, Asia, Foreigner, Jay Giles.
Yeah. I only managed to get full albums when I was sending that penny off to Columbia House and hoping my parents didn't catch me. They always did when the, late fee bills showed up.
Did you ever try it with a Canadian penny?
No, I should have. I probably still would have gotten
just
them.
as a joke.
I remember Asia and Jay Giles being one of those lucky acquisitions that I got. And I agree with you about all of these years blending in a bit together. But when we get to version 1983, if you've talked about it today, I'm bringing a big red buzzer. And every time you bring something up.
Not fair.
Oh yeah, it's going off. Yeah. So tread lightly here.
Okay, how about this? I won't mention any year specifically other than 1984. Stop me if I get carried away, because I may, but it's only for context. It's not trying to cram more into this conversation because it's big enough already. And according to the bylaws, I would have to listen to a Cure album.
My choosing.
Yeah. Oh shit, that's even worse. So in the early 80s, I had a paper route just to give everybody kind of like where I am in the history of me. For anyone who doesn't know what that is, there used to be these things called newspapers that would come out every day, and it was a common job for kids to walk around town and deliver them. Just about every cent I made went into music, Mountain Dew, and video games. Every weekend, I was buying at least one album, regardless of the format, vinyl, cassette, it didn't matter. Music has always been one of the most important and loved things in my life. And I'm sure it was that way with you too, Jim. The early 80s, these are our formative years. Our preferences are being established, and this music is still special to me. I'm sure it is for you too today. One genre of music I was branching out to was metal. In our metal episode, I brought up how it was Ozzy's Bark at the Moon. That's 83, but you can buzz me out then. That hooked me in. And so, Jim doesn't buzz me out too much. I won't mention anyone else who was around prior to 1984, but Ozzy really swayed me in that direction. But in 1984, metal just really exploded into my life. There was so much hard rock and metal that even in the later 80s, I was going back and getting some of these 1984 albums. It took me a while to realize, and to get the funds, but to realize, everything that was out there. I went from the majority of my listening to being stuff like 99 Left Balloons. And then in 1984, it's We're Not Gonna Take It. But,
Yeah.
I wasn't shunning anything. I have Weird Al in 3D on vinyl. So I wasn't like keeping, anything at arm's length. I wish I had more time to name drop because we're just not going to be able to talk about it all. 1984 is just too important of a year. And we didn't have MTV, but we would record videos from the shows that we had. WTBS had night tracks, NBC had Friday night videos, and CBC had Good Rockin' Tonight. We'd get home from school, we'd pop that beta tape or the VHS in, and that's where I found a lot of the metal, especially Good Rockin' Tonight. And I got reminded of some hard rock bands that I had forgotten about. I'm hearing Kick Axe, Quiet Riot, Bon Jovi, Autograph, Crocus, Helix, April Wine, that I wasn't hearing anywhere else.
Wow, that's some good name dropping for metal from 1984. I definitely remember Good Rockin' Tonight, but I wasn't up in Newport in 84, so that wasn't until 85. NBC Friday night videos were an event for me. I didn't have the let's record stuff on VHS or Betamax at this point. I think that came in the next year or two. If my parents let me stay up late, it was the best hour and a half of television. I was still 11 for half of 1984, so I wasn't always up for it, but when I was, it was bliss. And amazingly, Friday night videos ran until 2002.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
2002.
Uh-huh.
That's unbelievable.
It went down to a 60-minute show, but it was still 60 minutes of music videos.
It would have been fun to tune in just to see what they were doing and how it had evolved. So one of the trips we took in 84 was to visit family down in Virginia. And me and Mark, we brought practically our whole music library with us. Neither of us, we could not be far from our tapes. And this is where I first saw MTV. We didn't have it up in Newport, but I was seeing videos for Rat, Scorpions, Hanoi Rocks, and this is where I first learned about Slade. And 84, probably that summer, one of the biggest albums we were listening to was Cars Heartbeat City. It's aside from metal, but the Cars Heartbeat City was huge before Prince took over later in the year. The band I was in every year, going kind of skipping back to metal, we would play a few songs in the variety show every year. And I remember one year we played Alone Again by Dokken, and somebody somewhere has video evidence of it.
You may have been my inspiration to learn to play this Dokken song myself. I had to catch a lot of music videos visiting relatives in New Hampshire. I lived in Concord, New Hampshire during the first half of 1984. Still didn't have MTV. My dad was happy as long as Dallas was on a Friday night. But there were video countdown shows that were on every day after school for 30 minutes or an hour, and I caught a lot of them there. I was into singles and 45s, not quite albums. The Casey Kasem Top 40 Countdown was a central part of my weekend. Ballads, Footloose, and Born in the USA were massive. I ran home from school hoping to catch the Van Halen Jump video almost every day while that was popular. Music was fun in 1984, and it felt like it was peaking.
Oh, every band had to have a ballad or two, right? That was just a rite of passage. And Footloose, right? Movies also gave us tons of music. Soundtracks were huge. These are like golden years for that. Besides Footloose, you had Beverly Hills Cop, Ghostbusters, Against All Odds, Streets of Fire, Spinal Tap, 1984. I Just Called to Say I Love You was from the Woman in Red soundtrack. And of course, you had Breakin'. With all of this, you already brought it up. Casey Kasem's American Top 40 was everything to me on the weekend.
Yeah. We missed recognizing his death in the 2014 episode. So if we're gonna eulogize Wolfman Jack, I think Casey Kasem deserves an honor here as well.
Oh, damn right.
Yeah. He was a radio legend and probably the most important DJ in my formative years. Little known fact, he was the voice of Shaggy on all the old Scooby-Doo cartoons we grew up on. So Casey, if you're out there, after all the dedications you gave the world on your show, we dedicate this episode to you. I can't do his voice. I can try. But it's 1984. Here's to you, Casey Kasem. We each have 10 choices this week instead of our normal 5, because this is our only way of really talking about the music without just name dropping, in my opinion. And then we're actually going to have 10 more choices.
Why? Because it's our show and we want to.
That's right. That's right. Are you okay with doing it?
We have to do it. And there's no way we could rank these. This would be too hard.
It would be.
How do you choose your favorite kid?
Exactly.
You can't do that.
So like I said, we'll have 10 choices. But along with those 10 choices, what Matt and I talked about were picks that would have been on the list if we were 13. So sometimes you look back in life and you're, embarrassed as hell, or you have a laugh at what you were so into at a certain age. Well, I say 13. That was Matt. That I was 11, 12. He was 12, 13 during this year. So we'll give you the song that's going to go on the playlist, and then we'll give you the song that the kid version of us would have picked from that year. Some of them might be the same. It just also gives us a chance to talk about 20 songs over the rest of the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So I chose 1984, which means I get to kick it off.
Make it so.
I will. Somebody by Depeche Mode. This was my wedding song. Go check out the lyrics. It's perfect. I hoped as a teenager that I'd have this song as my wedding first dance, and I was lucky enough to marry a woman who said yes to it. It's not over the top mush. It's realistically loving with a touch of cynicism. It encapsulates a good relationship. I'll always love this song.
Is this kind of a deep track for them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I know some of their songs, but I enjoyed it. It's about an ideal relationship centered around respect and not expecting your partner to do anything but listen and understand.
Yeah. Okay, so my 12-year-old Jim is going to bring to the show Bruce Springsteen's Glory Days. The video was baseball and rock and roll. And when I was 12 years old, that was enough. That's all I needed. Born in the USA was an iconic 80s album. I think if you ask people, list 5 albums from the 80s, 99% of these people are going to bring up Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA. I'm almost certain we'll get a song from it added to the playlist, but I think this song taught me at a young age that we will get nostalgic as we get older, and we'll look back at our younger years as some of our best.
Yeah, and doing the show it's just given me a new respect for Springsteen. I've always kind of been, other than a few songs here and there, a little bit more dismissive of his music. And Born in the USA, he got lost in the mass of the music out there. I mean, it was undeniably huge and escapable. I knew it was there, but mostly it fell on deaf ears for me, except for I'm on Fire. I kind of like that song. But this is what Springsteen does best lyrically. It's about introspection, what ifs, characters living with regret and yearning for more. And I finally connected with this album this week. I'm glad I did.
I'm glad you did too. All right. What are you going to take to the list first, Matt?
Okay, I'm going to bring to the list first Prince, Let's Go Crazy.
Nice.
Yeah, my greatest challenge of picking a song from the Purple Rain album was which one. I love all of it. And this song, it's a great way to start an album, so it's a great way to start this part of the playlist. It grabs me from the very beginning. That intro, the dearly beloved, he's getting ready to take you to church, and that solo alone does just that.
Yeah, it's no surprise to me this is your first pick for the show. I know how much you love this album. So I'll be honest with you, I didn't touch Prince this week.
Thank you.
I stayed away because I knew this was your territory. If you want to get a party cranking, put this song on. It has so much energy. And after that opening sermon that you spoke about, I just love how the snare comes up in the mix.
Yeah.
And it's like the party really starts. The real fun begins.
Yes, it does. So 13-year-old me is going to bring Kiss in Heaven's on Fire.
No makeup Kiss.
No makeup Kiss. Their second album without makeup. And, this album, it's an important one for me for that time frame. I already think it was version 1980. I talked about, being laid up with a broken ankle. And I listened to this album as well as, a couple others, at like 3 a.m. because I could not sleep because I had just been laying down and doing nothing most of the time. But I had been listening to Kiss for as long as I could remember. So I don't think it was too big of a leap for me to get into metal from them.
No, that's great. You helped me appreciate Kiss a lot more with this show. And I think this is a great rock song and perfect in the era. So it's a great 13-year-old choice to bring to the list.
Yeah. And Kiss, they're not, the only part of them that's meant to be taken seriously is having a good time and partying. All right, Jim, what do you got?
All right. My second song, I'm going to just stay right with Depeche Mode just to put it right to rest. And that song is People Are People off the same album. Sorry, audience, if you're moaning because Depeche Mode twice, but I don't think these would be choices that would get picked off the Facebook page. And I really want both these songs on the playlist. This is probably my reason as to why I came to you and was like, we need 10 songs because I'm going to put 2 Depeche Mode songs on. I think this was part of my separation again from my religious upbringing. I've talked about this with music and other shows. I didn't understand why good people just couldn't come out of all walks of life. People are people. So why can't everyone just figure that out? This is one of those songs that if the world embraced the message for 60 seconds, we'd all be living in peace.
Yeah, people just have to be dicks, though.
Yeah, they do.
This song's like a New Year's resolution. We managed to try to be a better person for a week, and then it all falls back into place. But no, this is a good song. This song might have made it off a poll.
Maybe. There's just so many good songs. I didn't want to risk it.
Yep, definitely. All right, what about 12-year-old you?
Well, 12-year-old me, I did put this on the poll. I'm going to say that straight away. So we'll see whether it makes it or not. Don Henley, Boys of Summer. How does
this not make it?
Yeah. Again, for me as a 12-year-old, music and baseball, at least that's what I thought, because it's Boys of Summer. I didn't realize how in-depth it was about relationships and everything else going on.
Summer romance.
Yes. This song's timeless, though. It doesn't sound like a decade-specific song to me. And I have spent my life singing along to this song every single time that it's come on the radio.
Oh, yeah, it is timeless. It's perfect as is. I mean, you probably heard all the remakes, and, they don't need to be done because none of them come close to this at all. Great song.
All right. So your next choice that is going on the list, song number 2.
Song number 2 will be The Cars and You Might Think.
Oh, yeah.
If I'm making a list of best albums of 1984, you better believe Heartbeat City is on that list. This is another album, hit after hit after hit.
Mm-hmm.
They always they sit in a pocket in their songs. They're tight. They got great grooves to them.
And what about the music video for that? At the time, it was groundbreaking.
Yep.
And I think the music video for this really pushed creativity in future music videos, because suddenly bands weren't just singing around and dancing and lip syncing in place to their songs. So good choice. Great to have it on the list.
Sometimes I can hedge my bets, that song's a shoe-in. But really, when you really love a song, you just got to bring it.
It's got to be there.
Yeah,
all right. So what would 13-year-old you bring?
13-year-old me is going to continue with some embarrassment here. And we'll go with Autograph and Turn Up the Radio. we can't forget about silly anthemic one-hit wonders like this. I saw this on the list and I really did cringe. But then, as it sat, 13-year-old me was all over this. What rock band in 84 didn't have a love letter song to rock? And I mean capital R, capital O, capital C, capital K, right? Yeah. Even if it makes us uncomfortable, we can't forget how much songs like this meant to us at the time.
The minute I saw the title of the song, I heard that chorus screaming out at me. And then I went and listened to the rest of the song and realized, well, you're embarrassed.
Exactly.
But no, that's fun. It's definitely worthy for your 13-year-old self. So my third choice, let's go on. And I'm going to get us away from Depeche Mode. And the song is Pride in the Name of Love. U2 is one of those bands that I think people developed a disliking for more and more over the years as they kind of wore out some welcome that they were given in the 80s and early 90s. Mm-hmm. But when you go back to these early albums, I still think they sound incredible. And this song is the beginning of the climb to their peak. The signature edge delay sound on guitar and Bono's poignant lyrics craft a perfect song. And I think it's really poignant that these guys from Ireland were writing songs about issues taking place around the world. And it was back when U2 really spoke to people and their songs had a lot of depth and meaning. So yeah, I'm happy to take this to the list.
Oh yeah, it's not just a good song. This is an iconic song, right? Just as iconic as that delay guitar sound from the Edges. This song is definitely iconic. Great song.
Yeah.
So what does 12-year-old you have to add?
This is kind of funny. It's off the Bryan Adams Reckless album. Is it Somebody?
Yes.
Is it Summer 69? No. Is it?
No.
No, it's not any of those. It's Kids Wanna Rock. Screw the hits. Maybe because it wasn't overplayed, but I danced around my bedroom singing this song more than any off of Reckless. And I think the audience will add something from it anyway. So yeah.
And this shows how big 1984 was, because the Reckless album was a smash, but it almost feels like lost in the shuffle. But this was the 5th bestseller in that year. Van Halen's 1984 was 6th.
That's crazy because I would think Jump was a bigger album to me, at least.
Yeah, I think Reckless may have had more longevity.
Wow. Okay. Well, that is my choice for number 3. What is your third choice then, Matt?
We're going to stay with some metal, and we're going to go with Judas Priest in Love Bites. This song has such an attitude. It's the first Priest song I ever heard. It's plodding, it's eerie. I was hooked as soon as I heard the intro. It's like this gong thing that they're doing on the bass somehow. And it comes back around doing, what Judas Priest does a lot, this dual guitar solo. Everything about this song, it was just so cool to me at 13. And then I saw the album cover and I had to hear the rest of it.
When I saw this on the list, I thought, did Def Leppard do a cover? And, and I'm glad they didn't, because this is much better. This is great. It was a great song. And Judas Priest is another one of those bands that you've helped me appreciate a little bit more as we've done the show. It's probably one of the best metal songs of the 80s that I've enjoyed you've brought to the show. So good stuff. Yeah. 13, Matt, what are you bringing?
13. Well, no, screw this. This isn't embarrassing. This isn't embarrassing at all. Weird Al and I Lost on Jeopardy. 13-year-old me was so into this. Even his originals, they're in the style of other bands. And this song combines Jeopardy by the Greg Kihn Band and the game show Jeopardy. I'll give an honorable mention to Mr. Popeil. That's like a B-52 style. But I Lost on Jeopardy. See, I wasn't always so serious.
I'm going to give a special shout out to King of Suede. That's my size up there.
Love that. That's great.
Yeah, it's great. Uh-huh.
All right, hold on. I got to bring 51-year-old me out. Okay. And tell you it's your turn to give us another song.
All right, here we go. My next song is going to be Panama by Van Halen. Yeah. This song paints the landscape of everything Van Halen was best at. Eddie plays it all on the guitar. The power chords, harmonics, the pick sweeps, all of that's in there. The sound gets slow and swanky in the middle with Dave doing his thing as the ringmaster. Eddie has an epic solo in the middle of the song as always. This is a Van Halen song that I've never gotten sick of, and I'll never skip it when it comes on one of my playlists.
Oh yeah, no, this is the song to put on when you want to keep the party going.
Yes.
You can start it with Prince, but you better put some of this Van Halen in there. Definitely. Great album, great song. So what is 12-year-old you going to bring in?
Ooh, well, here we go. 12-year-old me was kind of obsessed with ballads. And, there were a lot of great rock ballads in the 1980s, and 1984 was not shy of them. So get ready for a few coming from 12-year-old Jim from this point forward. But I know as soon as I say this, our buddy Sandy from our metal show is going to be like, that's a tune.
Because it is.
It is. It is REO Speedwagon's Can't Fight This Feeling. What a great song.
Yes, it is.
This might be the best rock ballad of all time. I didn't even give an audience choice this week. I'm sorry it's not going to wind up on the playlist, but maybe it might have to come in a cleanup episode.
And that, again, shows you the depth of what's out there in 1984.
Isn't that crazy?
I know, because this song wasn't making the list.
Yeah, nuts.
Awesome.
All right. So what's your next choice, 51-year-old Matt?
51-year-old Matt. I'm going to go back for more with Rat.
Ooh.
I can't talk about how much, metal exploded for me in 84 and not bring more of it to the playlist, right? Rat, they were hair metal darlings in 1984, and this is a classic from back in the day. It's not their breakout song, it's not Round and Round, honorable mention, but it's one of their best.
I did like Round and Round quite a bit, and it was cool to go and listen to this song. I enjoyed it because this is one of those songs, I think, when somebody else listens to it around you and you've heard it a few times, a bunch of years go past and all you've heard is the hit song off the album.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed being able to hear this week because I definitely remembered it when it came on. It's a good tune.
Yeah, it's always hard to quantify Stephen Pearcy's vocals. He's got a weird voice.
Yeah, it does not fit into a box.
No, it's its own thing. And I've tried for years to kind of describe it to myself.
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't have a tone.
No, it doesn't.
It's just a rat screeching.
But it fits the music.
Yeah, it does.
It does, yeah. All right, so what are you bringing? Little Matt Little Matt, what are you taking to the show?
Little Matt's going to bring on the Pretenders and Back on the Chain Gang. This is a perfect example of like 1984 seeming like 2 years packed into one.
Yeah, it is.
There's so many songs I couldn't believe when I'm going through the list. I'm like, there's no way that was out at the same time as this one. But it just sounds like it's from a different era.
I definitely remember hearing this on the radio back in the day. And it was one of those songs that, riding around with my parents in the car, wherever I was. Yeah, it was refreshing. It was good. It was different from everything else that was coming out in 80s music. And I think I talk about timeless songs from the 1980s. The Pretenders did that. They separated themselves from that 80s sound completely and had their own thing.
Yep. I would agree. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. That wraps up my choices. What is you?
Oh, my next choice. Well, I think when it comes to this choice, this is probably my favorite of all time in his instrument that he plays. And that is Stevie Ray Vaughan. And the song is Couldn't Stand the Weather. I could have picked 2 or 3 songs from this album. Like I said, he is my favorite guitar player. And when I went back, I was just blown away. I was like, oh, I can't believe this is 1984. This is great. Because Stevie Ray Vaughan, we talk about timeless, the Pretenders.
Oh, yeah.
I discovered Stevie Ray Vaughan probably more in 1991, 92 when I started getting into his music. I remember when he died, I ran into you the day he died.
Yeah.
And I remember having a conversation with you about reading it in the newspaper that morning. And I don't know why, but it was 1989 and we were in high school and we talked about it that day.
Yeah. Yep. I remember that. That was sad.
Yeah, it was. But I wanted to pick one of his originals because I don't want him to just be remembered as someone who was great at playing Hendrix tunes. I want him to be remembered for writing a great composition himself. And Couldn't Stand the Weather's great. Just even that rhythmic pattern at the start is one of those things. Try to count that. If you are not a really good musician, you're going to have a hard time figuring out when that next beat's coming in, especially after the 3rd or 4th stop. And then when that guitar rhythm comes through and he starts, just even his rhythm riffs before he's even playing lead are so creative and cool. I could spend probably an episode talking about Stevie Ray Vaughan to stop me.
Oh yeah, because he's one of the best, one of the best. Yeah. And this is probably the least 80s sounding song on this list.
Absolutely.
Because it's timeless. It could fit in any decade. Yeah.
It's a blues song.
Yeah. Great song. Yeah. All right. So what is 12-year-old you going to bring?
12-year-old me is going to bring Julian Lennon, Too Late for Goodbyes. This is John Lennon's son, which if you don't know that, I don't know why you're listening to the show, but here you are finding this out, lamenting over the loss of his father. I was 100% in when I was 12 years old. The Beatles were a big deal to me. John Lennon was a big deal. We both talked in the 1980 episode about his death. It's a good song. And Julian was a good songwriter, living underneath a shadow that probably no other songwriter has had to live under. He was actually just on Twitter this week with a picture where he bumped into Uncle Paul at the airport.
Oh, wow.
And he called him Uncle Paul, of a photo of Julian and Paul McCartney together. It was amazing to see that.
Cool. A big deal was made out of him being John Lennon's son, which is justifiable. And John Lennon's death in 1980, it felt like a lifetime ago in 1984.
Yeah.
And then when you see the video for him and you see that face and you hear that voice and you have that whoa moment, and it is something very John Lennon thing to do with having a goodbye song that is upbeat.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely something that John probably would have done.
All right. That's my choice. Old me, little me. What is your choice next, old Matt?
We're going to bring in some hard rock with Triumph, and the song is Spellbound. I probably had exposure and appreciation of Triumph just because of living so close to Canada. This is one of my favorite albums from 1984. Speaking of great guitarists, I think Rick Emmett is severely unappreciated in that category. He's phenomenal. It's a great rock song by a band that had been around for a long time doing it, and they knew how to do it. And this is a really great song.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to people coming and listening to this song on the playlist. You've brought a couple of Triumph songs now, and I'm correct in saying they were the first concert you ever went to?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's cool. It's nice to have that connection. And as this show is part of our music history, you need to bring that stuff to the show. So good stuff. Even old man Matt's allowed to bring that nostalgia is great.
I have feelings.
You have feelings too. So what is your 13-year-old self going to bring to the show?
Well, my 13-year-old self had feelings too. So we're going to go with Hall & Oates and Out of Time. Out of Time might get lost in the forest looking back in 1980. Hall & Oates were definitely flexing their pop muscles at this point in their career. Mark and I listened to them a ton. By 1984, Hall & Oates they've always been around in our lives. So both of us, we're really connected to this album. Even though they were embracing newer sounds in the 80s, they never lost what made them unique. They always had this soul to them. They were more evolved into the time, I think, instead of trying to do whatever they needed to stay viable. I think they were always authentic no matter what they did.
I disagree with you. This is where we would probably butt heads on a Hall & Oates episode, because I think they definitely added that same 80s drum sound that you get so pissed off over.
Who didn't want to play on that big drum set in the video?
I know.
Yeah.
It's still good. It is. But I am not wrong about them bringing that 80s drum sound in.
Again, this is 13-year-old me.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Right.
That's
If I was to make even a 20 song favorites playlist of Hall & Oates, this, Big Bam Boom, probably nothing on that album would make it.
Okay. But you're going to bring it today.
But I'm going to bring it today because 13-year-old me.
Because 13-year-old is going to bring it. Because you have feelings too.
I have feelings.
All right. My next choice.
Yes.
I like how I was able to prod you a little bit still in this episode over a song. And I like Hall & Oates. So
yeah,
I just, sometimes you can like the same band and somebody can say something about them and you can be like, no, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And that's the cool part about talking about music. It doesn't mean you don't like that band too. You can just disagree on some of the songs and sounds and stuff. So, well, I am very happy to bring my next song to the list. And that is from the film Stop Making Sense, The Talking Heads, Slippery People. I actually just heard this song for the first time about 4 years ago. I was walking to work. I had great new headphones. I was enjoying the day. It must have been a beautiful morning. And it starts kicking in, and all the rhythmic syncopation that was going on in the beginning of the song had me looking down at my phone going, what the hell is this? And I was just like, whoa. And it was my awakening to the Talking Heads. I went back and I watched the film, and I think this song is the peak of the monumentous build of instruments and performers they bring out onto stage. But I'm so glad I had that awakening to the Talking Heads, because it really opened my eyes up to listen to a lot more of their music. I talked last week about percussion in the Talking Heads, and this song is exactly what I was thinking about when I made that comment.
Yeah, it's nice to see him on stage and doing the song and just having the people out there to do it instead of having, some kind of backing track.
Yeah.
Which is what a lot of people would do. It's so hard to believe this is a live album. The sound is so incredible. All right. What about 12-year-old you?
Here we go. Back to the ballads. I'm going to bring John Waite's Missing You to the show. This is beautiful cheese. He has a great voice. And I remember it fitting in so perfectly on an episode of Moonlighting. This is my memory of this. David and Addie had a fight, and, they were walking away from each other, and this song came on. The opening verse, every time I think of you, I always catch my breath. It's so cool. And the whole song is just really a good song. What I like about the song is, at the young age of 11, 12 years old, I understood the irony of missing you actually meant I'm really going to miss you a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. But hey, if the 80s were one thing, it was brightly colored cheese, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
We loved our colors in the 80s. But you obviously do, how your ears, they would perk up when you heard a familiar song on these TV shows.
Yeah.
or some of these would have a guest starring spot on them, like Ed Sheeran in the Game of Thrones episode that he was in. Miami Vice did this a lot.
So there we go. Some more cheese from Jim. There's more to come. But before we get there, Matt, take us away to something cool. What's your next choice? Go to the playlist.
Something cool. I think it's cool. Hopefully everybody else does too. It's Run, Run Away by Slade. It is a damn catchy song. That drum beat in the beginning, and it's the simplest guitar can really just hook you in. This is definitely one of their more polished songs. It's meant to be anthemic with this constant call and answer. It sounds like a party, so let's just keep that party going.
Yeah, it's a good song. One of the things that I'm really happy with the show is how much Slade you've brought to it, because I'm sure our UK listeners are like, whoa, yeah, that's cool.
Slade.
I didn't really get much Slade as a kid growing up, and I'm not sure why. Maybe because I wasn't paying attention to the metal scene, but metal is not what I get when I hear Slade. Slade's like pure class rock and roll.
Yeah, they're an old school glam rock band.
Yeah.
That have just been around forever.
Yeah, so I'm sure that our friends here in the UK, when they hear you bring Slade so much to the show, they're pumping their fists going, yeah, another Slade song.
Right.
Yeah, that belongs
Slade.
there. Yeah.
Take that goddamn out in honor of your mother.
Yeah. I'm looking at our list of songs here. Okay, what British artist is your 13-year-old self going to bring?
He's going to bring Elton John and Sad Songs Say So Much.
Yeah.
Right, it wasn't all about metal. This is one of the few songs of his later in his career that I got attached to. It's a really good song. And it's really odd that a song about sad songs is this upbeat and happy sounding.
Yeah, I think it's one of those songs that's just really honest. Sad songs say so much. Turn them on.
Turn them on, embrace it. And, because there's a song that, will speak to you and fit your need. That's
exactly. I think he might have written this song. We've all been in that place in life where we've been riding around and we've been listening to the radio and you got a little bit of heartbreak and it's the sad stuff on the radio that just keeps nailing you.
And you belt it out. You belt Missing You Out.
That's right.
All right. So Jim, where are you going to take us next?
I am going to take
more slow stuff.
Not yet. My song for the playlist is not a slow song, but we'll stay tuned for what 13-year-old brings. It is Philip Bailey and Phil Collins, and the song is Easy Lover. The riff in this song is a lot of fun to me. I really like that riff on guitar, and the rhythm section is so tight. It stops and the sound deadens and it goes. And there's just something that's great when you can capture that in a studio. I love the music video. I had to watch it again a couple of times this week just because it was so fun. Two guys show up on a random day in a studio and they effortlessly crank out this hit. Fun stuff.
Phil Collins was everywhere in the 80s, just like sweaters from this video.
Yeah, they were. And it looked like the weather was quite nice for sweaters. And I think he was wearing one of those
I know.
sleeveless V-neck sweater things going on.
Yeah, but Philip Bailey was wearing a full-on Bill Cosby show sweater.
Yeah, he is. He is.
But this song needs to make a comeback somehow because it is great. I'm glad you put it on your list to add to the playlist and not to 13-year-old me, because this is a really fun song.
So are you ready for my 80s ballad?
Yes, bring more ballads.
Speaking of Phil Collins, we are going to go with Against All Odds.
Take a look at me now, Jim.
Yeah.
Take a look at me now.
This song explained to me that one day my heart was going to be broken. I think I sang this song feeling like I was suffering a divorce when I was 12 years old.
I'm crying for my future pain.
Yeah. And this was a theme song for a movie called Against All Odds. But if you ever watch the music video, you've probably seen the movie. It felt that way every time you sat down and watched it. Do you remember the video?
Oh, definitely. I think I probably watched the video enough times to have sit down and watch the movie.
Yeah. So yeah, there we go. Against All Odds. If anybody wants to have a sing-along, just get in touch. I'll be right there with you. Right.
See, more Phil Collins. He was everywhere in the 80s. He's just one of those voices we grew up hearing. It was just everywhere. It felt
all
like.
the time.
All the time. He had so many hits. I almost forgot this was from a movie because I'd never seen it too. It just didn't seem like it was something for 13-year-old me. I'm sure this song definitely overshadowed the movie.
Yeah, it did. Oh, I think this was a case of the song being bigger than the movie.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. So are you like all ballads on your 13-year-old list? So
almost
Okay.
Not quite all, but I'm there.
I'm glad you're doing it because we need to highlight how big ballads were.
I didn't bring the ballads to the choice for the poll for the most part. So yeah, I made sure that was still going to be all fun music because, we don't want people listening to the playlist and feeling
Crying.
or having to listen to Phil Collins.
Yeah. Some people might like that.
They might, and I don't blame
They
them.
might.
Yeah, 12-year-old me loves it.
Yep. Exactly.
All right, what do you got next for us?
Moving along, I'm going to bring New Girl Now by Honeymoon Suite, another Canadian band that I'm probably pretty sure that my knowledge of is related to the proximity to the Canadian border. I was growing up, and it kind of feels like they've been forgotten over time. So I had to bring them to the playlist. And this video alone, it's an 80s time capsule.
Yeah, this band was big. I remember them growing up near Canada, as we both did. You and I, we lived a half a mile apart, and the border was about 3 miles from our house. And we got Canadian television. So we got Canadian music and Canadian music videos and Canadian radio. And Honeymoon Suite won all kinds of Canadian music awards in the 80s. I just don't think they ever really broke in the USA. When you go 30 miles south of that border, it's hard to find somebody who's heard of them, which is a shame because they were a great band.
Yeah, I've always kind of wondered that if it's more of a regional thing, and I'm pretty sure it is, even though they had a hit, they had a song in the Lethal Weapon soundtrack, but I don't know how much exposure that really gave them.
Yeah.
So let's move along to 13-year-old me, and I wasn't going to do this. Then I heard the song, and then I thought about it for a long time.
And you couldn't help yourself.
I couldn't help myself. Ray Parker Jr., Ghostbusters.
Nice.
It has to be here.
This song's already on the playlist because the audience picked it for the Halloween episode. And I don't care.
That's why it's 13-year-old me.
Yeah. I don't care if the songwriting drama between this song and Huey Lewis's I Want a New Drugs is the same thing. To me, there are two separate songs. And 1984 was the beginning of the big 80s movie soundtracks.
I think you're right. It felt wrong not bringing this song in. Yeah, it's a rip.
Yeah.
But, I don't think any fan was overly upset about that because they're both great songs. And Ray Parker Jr., he put that bridge in there that just makes Ghostbusters its own thing. It was from one of the biggest movies of the year, one of the biggest songs. To this day, people will still make "Who You Gonna Call" jokes, right? Ghostbusters, it's left that mark that's not going away. Mm-hmm. So in that regards, yeah, it is kind of bigger than I Want a New Drug.
Yeah, good choice. I approve of 13-year-old Matt.
That's what 13-year-old Matt needed to hear. All right, what does 50-year-old Jim have to bring?
All right, 50-year-old Jim is going to bring The Time Juggler. Oh. I remember talking to our old friend Phil Kelly one day at school about Prince, and he was like, have you ever listened to The Time? And I hadn't. So, Phil had a musical impact on me in my teen years, and I went out and bought the cassette. I ended up knowing every word to every song on it. And then the song came back around during the Clerks era and Jay and Silent Bob. And I was so happy to see it back in media again and another generation trying to find out who The Time were. It's such a great song. It's kind of a joke in the Kevin Smith movies, but not really at the same time. I think he's really kind of honoring it.
Yeah, it's part joke, part respect, but leaning more towards respect.
Yeah.
And this was part of Prince's Minneapolis sound, right? The Time We're in the Purple Rain movie.
They are there, yeah.
Yeah, the OE. It does make it feel a bit like a novelty song, but that part aside, it's a great fun song.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely a good choice. So 12-year-old Jim is probably going to bring us back down.
Get your box of tissues out.
Tito, give me a tissue.
Because we are going to go to Survivor.
Okay.
Not any of their pump and rock songs. We're going to go to The Search Is Over. What can I say? 12-year-old me loved the ballads, and I was just learning to ask a girl how to slow dance. One dance with the right girl and a song like this would have me daydreaming for a very long time. I hadn't picked a song for this point yet. And you had said to me, oh, Jim, you're still missing one of your 12-year-old songs. And I was lying in bed. I was all by myself. Linda was on night shift, and I had my phone open, and I was going through playlists on Spotify, and I came across this song, and I laid there at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and I sang along and knew every single word to this song.
And you knew the search was over for your final song.
Oh, I did. That was it. The search was over. I had found my final song.
Hell yeah. Again, ballads in the 80s, they kicked ass, right? And this is a good song. This is a good slice of cheese.
It is. Good song. Thank you. All right, where are we going next then for you, Matt?
We're going to go all the way back to Van Halen and Hot for Teacher.
I'm so glad we each brought a song off this album.
Oh, how are we not? I mean, everything you said about Panama applies here. This was the hardest album to pick a song from. Even hedging our bets that Jump would make the list on a poll, I almost picked it because I didn't want to take a chance because I love Jump. But this album, it ruled my life for the first half of 1984. I remember getting into an argument with some older teenager. He was like 17 or 18. This argument was, there was no way Aerosmith was better than Van Halen.
No way.
Just no way. That argument still stands to this day.
The audience, I will pray and hope, will put Jump on the playlist. It belongs there. I have faith in that. But we need a minute to talk about how big this album was to both of us. In our weekly chat, when we messaged each other back and forth before a show, I said there were a big three: Madonna's Like a Virgin, Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA, and Purple Rain. And I was wrong. Van Halen's 1984 belongs right up there with them. It made Van Halen a household name. They were known in rock circles ahead of this album, but they were larger than life this year that the album came out. And it propelled Eddie to his iconic status that he reached.
100% correct. Especially on Eddie. I mean, he was always respected by guitar players, but now everybody in the world says, "Oh, that's Eddie Van Halen. That's Eddie Van Halen." That's all you need to say. When people thought about Eddie Van Halen prior to 1984, it was usually like guitar players, and just people that listen to hard rock. But after 1984, everybody looked and just bowed to Eddie Van Halen as being the guitar god. Right. But, I could go on with honorable mentions to Top Jimmy, House of Pain, really just anything off this album. I wish I could have made a medley off this. The 1984 intro, it's like the 20th Century Fox fanfare. You're just going to watch this incredible movie. No, you're going to listen to this incredible album.
Here it is. Yep. All right. So what was 13-year-old going to take to the list then?
13-year-old me was a really big fan of Queen and Radio Gaga. This is most likely a song that's not embraced by a lot of Queen fans. I think people rip into it because of the nonsensical chorus, the Radio Gaga, goo goo, blah, blah, whatever, but I like it for being that love letter to radio. And Freddie always gives a masterful performance.
Yeah, he does. I'm happy you brought this to the list. I think you do a lot to please our British audience without realizing that. And, I hear this song at least once or twice a week at work on the radio. Yeah, this is still getting airplay over here constantly. I always kind of
thought this was like maybe a lost song.
No, well, maybe in the States it is, but over here, this song is still really well loved. And I think that it's a great song to have there. So even if it's just an honorable mention, I do think I put it on the audience poll.
Oh, good.
So there's a chance it'll make the playlist.
Good.
Yeah.
Honorable mention to I Want to Break Free.
Well,
that's a great song.
The last retail job I left, I was in one of those big Best Buy stores, Curry's over here for people in the UK. And I was walking out after being there in retail management, and it was my time leaving retail, and I've not ever gone back. And I went over to one of the stereo systems and I put Queen's I Want to Break Free on and cranked it as loud as it could go and walked out of the store.
Yeah, that is just a song for any group, any person that is being oppressed.
So I'll let you have an honorable mention for your 13-year-old self.
Oh yeah, and Hammer to Fall. Okay, so Jim. All right, Jim, why don't you take us away with your next songs?
My next one is Steve Perry, the voice of the 80s, in my opinion. He had been the lead singer of Journey. The song is Oh Sherry. I was a huge fan of Journey in the 80s. I think this was pretty standard for most of us in elementary or junior high. Steve Perry has a signature voice. This is his only solo hit that I'm really aware of, but Sherry is also my mother's name, so it's got its fair share of play in my house. I'll be honest with you right now, my mother isn't very well, and when I heard the song this week, I needed to bring it to the playlist. It's kind of personal to me. I hope that she recovers soon, and I'm intentionally not swearing in this episode. In case she listens to it. So, my mother, Sherry, this is dedicated to you for being on the
Yeah,
playlist
Sherry,
this
we
week.
all hope your mom sees better days soon. And sorry about my foul mouth too. You can just edit out any swear words that I have. And you joked about listening to last version, you joked about listening to Willie Nelson sing the alphabet. Steve Perry could take his time with the phone book. This is no whispery high voice that annoys you. This is just a powerful voice with such an incredible range and an ability to convey emotion. Definitely one of the best voices ever. Okay, what about 12-year-old you?
Well, we're going to go back to, you talked about soundtracks. We talked about them through the show. Footloose by Kenny Loggins. I did put this in the audience poll, and I think it will be a shoe-in. I spent most of 1984 obsessed with this movie and the soundtrack. This was another rebellious, break free from your religious upbringing, movies, songs, whatever, that I had in my life. And in retrospect, it's easy to see how clued in I was as a child. I knew what road I was going down when I was 11 or 12 years old.
Yeah. I already shared with you that Footloose it's probably the first song I ever got tired of hearing. And it's on me. I played this song so much. I loved this song so much, but I just killed it.
You told me you wore the 45 out.
Oh my God. I just loved it so much.
All right. So what are you bringing next?
For my next song, we're going to keep it metal, and we're going with the Scorpions and Bad Boys Running Wild. Another band, along with Priest, I first heard in 84 and had no idea how long they had been around. And they still are. They just put out an album this year. And it's not bad. Yeah. It's not bad. It's pretty good. Obviously, the big hit
I'm not surprised.
Was Rock You Like a Hurricane, but Bad Boys Running Wild is my favorite song on the album. There's just that opening guitar when it comes in and the riff, it's a rock song, right? It fits with the teenage Bad Boys Running Wild, right? It fit my wheelhouse at the time.
My brother had this album on vinyl, but Rock You Like a Hurricane is track 2. Yes. And this is track 1. And I know that when I was hanging out with my brother as a kid and we were doing stuff in the house, he'd put this album on. And I always heard that first side, no matter what. And the minute I heard this song, I was just brought back to my grandfather's living room with my brother playing this album on vinyl. And it was just amazing. It was great. So yeah, good song. Awesome. I'm happy to have this on the playlist. Rock You Like a Hurricane is also an audience choice. If they choose to put that there, that's cool. Rock You Like a Hurricane was the very first guitar riff I ever learned how to play.
Then you get that 1-2 punch, tracks 1 and 2.
Oh, that'd be cool. All right. So what's 13-year-old you going to bring?
13-year-old me is going to bring on Birds Fly, Whisper to a Scream by Icicle Works. This song has just a great bass line that hooked me in when I was a kid. And I really love the structure of it with the vocals and the percussion in the first verse there. It's a great sing-along song for me.
Yeah, I'd never really heard this before. So cool to bring to the list. Yeah. Are they Canadian? Do you know?
I want to say they're UK. I want to say they're British.
Okay.
But I'm not. I don't know.
I'll go research that further. It was a cool song though. And yeah, I recommend everybody go listen to it. And it's cool. Even if it doesn't make the playlist this time around, it's one of those songs that you might want to bring back in a cleanup because I think it's worth it. I think people should hear it. So yeah.
All right, Jim. What are you going to give us? What are you going to give us next?
Well, this is the last song.
We have to eventually stop, right?
All right. So I'll be the one who drives us home. Well, no, actually, that'll be you because you'll go last. But the song you talked about, Heartbeat City, and this is the song Drive by the Cars. I mean, what can be said?
Great song. That's what you can say.
Yeah, you said the album's hit after hit, and deservedly so. Magic, You Might Think, and they're standout classics on their own. But to me, Drive is an absolutely timeless song. I have great memories attached to it. And I've brought all these 80s ballads to the show, and I finished on Drive on purpose because this song is still a ballad in the sense of it for a band like the Cars. but it's not your atypical ballad. It's just real honest, sincere, and I guess I could say real sounding, if that makes sense.
I know
There's just something really great. And it's also not a Rick Ocasek song, which, they went back and forth a little bit.
Ben Orr.
Ben Orr, doing what he does best. So I'm happy to have this on the list, and I hope that the audience enjoys rediscovering this song as much as I did this week.
Yeah, this is another one of the albums. It's like, just pick a song. You can't be wrong. Have you ever played any of their songs in a band? They're all their songs. They just have this slower pace to them because they're just their own thing. It's great songs. This is a really great ballad. So 12-year-old you is going to end your selections.
All right.
What's he going to end it with?
All right. So an awakening period, as they say, in the 1980s. And this was Madonna's Like a Virgin. The album itself was massive, was so big. And Madonna has become an icon from really the growth of this album and everything she's done since. As taboo as this could have gotten in my religiously dominated house, I couldn't own it. But I could watch music videos, and I was glued to the TV anytime one of her videos came on, and this song, definitely as well. And if you want to know what the words of the song really mean, go watch the beginning of Quentin Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs.
How many dicks is that?
A lot.
Toby Chew? Toby Wong.
Awesome. All right. So what's your last song? What are you closing us out with?
I'm going to close us out with Purple Rain by Prince.
Oh.
I'm bookending my songs with Prince. Let's Go Crazy was the first, and Purple Rain was the last on the Purple Rain soundtrack. I was trying to only choose one song just because I wanted to reflect on everything that was out there. Right. But anything I was trying to choose paled in comparison to Let's Go Crazy, because Purple Rain was going to be on here regardless. Because if this isn't my favorite song of all time, I don't know what is. Everything about it.
That's a great favorite song. It's a great favorite song of all time.
Everything about this hits perfectly. Ballads were a big thing at this age, as we all know by now, and this year especially. So I think that's what initially drew me into it. But as I got older and kept listening to it, I just kept getting a new and a different appreciation for it. Prince picks the right sounds for his songs. He doesn't box himself in. Everything's in service to what does this song need the most. The guitar alone in this song is just so incredibly powerful. His vocal performance, there's such raw emotion when he digs in. I get chills every time he sings that line. I know, times are changing. And those chills, they just double down on his solo. It's phenomenal.
If you thought you were getting taken to church at the beginning of the album, like you said, when the sermon starts, you just wait until you hear Purple Rain. I even think of this song and the melody sticks in my head for the rest of the day. This is, in my opinion, a perfect song.
This song, this is the amen at the end of the sermon.
Oh, absolutely. All right, Matt. So there we go. Last song on the playlist. 13-year-old you, what were you going to do with your life?
Jim, I wanted to rock. This is Twisted Sister's offering to the hair metal mantra, right?
I couldn't help that. Sorry.
Exactly. Even by 80s standards, they did look a bit ridiculous, but the look back up the mantra, right? The capital R, capital O, capital C, capital K.
Oh, yeah.
They
absolutely.
And they wanted to put on a show and give all they had. That's what they were about. Rock and roll. Yeah, they did have ballads, but they were all about, no, we're going to give you everything we got, and you're going to leave this show sweaty and tired because you just ran a marathon.
Great choice for 13-year-old you. I don't think I have this on the audience poll this week, which is unfortunate. I had to edge some songs in and out because there's so much that's there that's amazing. And it just goes to show how big of a year 1984 really was and how hard it was to choose these songs. When I put the poll up today, one of the very first comment I got was, this is so hard. And this was a really hard year for us to kind of go through and try to pick what we're going to do.
Yeah, this is the soundtrack of our lives.
It
I
is.
mean, this whole process is, But these early 80s years, we said it, they're our formative years.
Yeah, let's stay away from 1983 for at least a few more
God,
episodes.
Yeah, I don't know if I can take that kind of heartbreak again.
Oh, it's going to be tough. It is. All right, so here we are. We're at the end of 1984. It's been great. It's been a lot of fun. We are going to change things up again for the next episode because that's kind of what we've been doing to keep things a little more interesting. But the next episode is going to come out the Friday of Thanksgiving weekend. So we need to do something a little special for Thanksgiving. Matt, what do you think we should do?
I think we've been kind of kicking this thing around a little bit. By thing and kicking, I mean country music. we haven't really shown much respect to country music because neither of us are really big fans of what has been going on currently. But we are really big fans of country music from back in the day.
Yeah, we are.
In the 70s and the 60s, early 80s. That's more of our wheelhouse for country music. So we're going to revisit that.
Yeah, let's revisit country music for Thanksgiving. I think that works. And, keep in mind, people who listen to the show, you're not going to hear a lot of country songs. You're just going to hear Matt and I talk about our life and experience and what we like. And I'm sure when we start going through names like Willie Nelson and Kenny Rogers and Johnny Cash and Dolly Parton, there are a lot of people out there who think they hate country music who are going to be like, well, yeah, I like that. And there's stuff in there that we laugh at and we joke about and we think, we run in groups where we all claim we hate country music.
Yeah.
And then there's always that exception to the rule. And I think that's what we'll do with this show. All right, Matt. So I wrapped up the last show, which makes it your turn to wrap up this one.
But I don't want to. You know why?
Because you want to stay in 1984?
Because I want to stay in 1984. Yeah. We got 20 more songs for you. No, we wouldn't do that.
Because you don't want to listen to country music over the next week.
Oh, am I that transparent? Oh my Lord.
Matt, honestly, do not go start deep diving into a bunch of no, I know
I know what I like.
I know you.
I know what I like.
Okay,
I know what I like for country music. All right, so from the Jam Yearbook, I am Matt, and that is
I'm Jim.
And we want to thank you for listening and tune in next time for Country of All Things.
We'll be here as part of your Thanksgiving leftovers. Country music. Yeehaw! Peace, love, and podcast.